Welcome back to another episode of Detections Podcast with your hosts, Exiled Atreides and
BSDBandit. Ow!
Oh.
Oh, I'm super amped. It is Thankful Thursday. How you feeling today?
I am that good tired when you've been working hard and your brain's just like, I'm done. I need a break.
I know that feeling all too well. Even though my energy levels are like insane, like day and night, I do crash like everybody else. So I am not a bot. Just want to put that out there.
And speaking of working hard and needing that break, that's why you don't hear Understudy on tonight, is because he is prepping for a trip to go take one of those much needed breaks.
Yes. And we still love him and we miss him in spirit. Yep, yep.
So, what's been going on with you this week?
This week, I've had several different engagements. I had a penetration test and a threat hunt. So they kind of landed on the same week. So I've been insanely busy. So it's been blue brick, red brick, blue brick, red brick. So,
and at the end of the week, it just looks like a big purple square.
That's correct. And then you got to put the sound out there. Dun dun. Exactly. So that's what puts the icing on the cake right there.
So I've still been battling with older versions of OpenSUSE and trying to get various forms of endpoint detection on that operating system. Which has been fun because that specific one went out of support end of life back in 2012.
Susie, how dare you?
Yeah, so that's been most of it. And then it's just been like follow-up documentation and meetings else from that. You know, all the normal stuff of being that consultant life.
Yes. What's consultant life without a couple of meetings, huh?
Exactly. Luckily though, most of mine are actually in the 30 minutes to an hour with relevant stuff coming out, and they're not we need a meeting to discuss how to do the next meeting.
Oh, that always happens. But the food's awesome.
Come on, this is COVID. All the food is self-brought now. There's no
That's
longer...
what I'm talking about. That's what makes it awesome. Nobody makes muffins like my wife can. I love you.
Oh. Definitely when COVID's over, I'm going to have to come over and find out about that.
Yes. You are perfectly welcome.
All right. So do you have anything else before we start talking about the news? Or
no, let's get into it. Let's go.
All right. So I want to start this off because I found something interesting. Thanks to DerbyCon, I found out about Innocent Lives Foundation and the work that they do in finding like child predators and human trafficking online. And I found this article from Reuters where they're talking about another organization that was started by a computer scientist based out of Seattle, him and his wife, called the Global Emancipation Network, where in their free time, they do a very similar thing to Innocent Lives of using the web to find this stuff and then compiling the information and giving it over to law enforcement.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. I think this is awesome, especially in like the age that we're in with like information technology in general. Because before, there's so many cold cases out there that this type of volunteering and this is the type of help that the law enforcement needs as far as like helping to crack a lot of these cold cases that are still out there. So I'm all for that. They get an A for effort and then some. Maybe some muffins too. I'm gonna tell them to make them some muffins.
Make them some muffins.
Yes.
Yeah. So what's cool about this too is it shows that despite what the media says about hackers and the things that the people in information security, cybersecurity, like this faceless criminal dark element that they try to attach to the word, is that a large number of us have these very big giving hearts that we give up time to do stuff like this. And that's not an easy thing to deal with either.
No.
Like when I was talking with the Innocent Lives people, they were saying that they have a technical interview, but then they also have a psychologist on staff that you have to go through regular evals and make sure that you're mentally stable enough to continue doing the work.
Yes, I mean that's insanely important because again, especially now with everything that's going on, especially with the pandemic and folks being at home, and depending on a person's living situation, they might be at home alone. You just never know anybody's situation. So having a therapist on deck is extremely important. Again, we all have to watch after our mental health. So that's truly important. See, more A pluses. Oh, they racking them up. I'm running out of muffin mix.
Yeah, so I mean, if anyone's interested, definitely check out the links for the article in this, and I'm going to give Innocent Lives another 100% shout out because everything that organization does is fantastic, and they deserve the support.
Yes, so we're going to give a good old detections, yep, to that organization. Love y'all and all the work that you guys and gals are doing.
Awesome. What do you got for us?
Well, I have something, and this is all about the stuffing, baby. Again, I'm not talking about stovetop here. This is dealing with Sam's Club and their actual attack by credential stuffing attacks. So a couple of weeks ago, well, the article was released actually today. The information was actually released today. Over the past 2 weeks, Samsung, I guess they caught the attack early enough. Thumbs up for them. They started sending like automated password reset emails and security notifications to their customers who were hacked in the credential stuffing attack. And not Stovetop, by the way. I keep saying that. I love Stovetop. I got it on my brain.
So we called this piece the not Stovetop credential stuffing.
There you go. Boom. Look at that. Winning already. So in the emails that were sent out to the club members, the company was just alerting the members that an unauthorized party may have gained access to their account. And this activity was, like I said, was detected back in September. So it did not stem from, according to them, it did not stem from a data breach. According to Sam's Club, it was more likely a result from an attacker or attackers already like knowing the user's credentials. So probably got their, got a set of credentials from like, say, a huge data breach dump off the internet, and using that information to try to see if they can gain access to specific Sam Club's account using that same information. That's all it is. So it's stuffing upon stuffing.
And I wonder if Sam's Club, like a lot of other businesses, does the thing where the email address is also the same as the login username. So once you figure out the format, then you can do your credential stuffing, your password spraying across iterations once you get employee names. Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't surprise me, that they're doing that. And they're not the only company that's going to go through this. There's a lot more other companies out there that just haven't been reported yet or haven't reported it themselves just yet. But
so I'm curious, like, if they saw the activity back in September, but they didn't disclose until now.
Yeah.
Like, why did they wait so long? I mean, wouldn't it be a little bit more responsiveness to let the potentially affected people know, like, that they needed to change? Because now that's been what?
Almost a month.
A month of that the any sort of like pivoting from those accounts could have happened, and who knows what could have happened in that time.
Correct, but they could have instead of like, now that they probably released it to the public today, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go on a whim here and just say that hopefully Sam's Club did the right thing when as soon as they discovered the attack, they let all of their customers know exactly what happened, but they just released the information to the public, like, hey, this is what occurred. I'm giving Sam's Club the A+.
Benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, the benefit of the doubt.
Good man, BSD.
Yep, Mr. Silver Lining.
So that brings up an interesting thing, though. Like, right? Yes. So we've got Sam's Club, we've got the credential stuffing, and then like compromised accounts.
Yeah.
that's going to be useful in the coming season, right? Because now that we're coming into holiday season and gift giving, we're going to
Oh
see
my
the
goodness.
resurgence of all of these. Like, you're getting an Amazon package phishing email. You're getting
Yes. You're getting like special holiday gift cards at New York and Company. Come sign up for this right now. You have to put in your username and your password and your email address.
yeah.
Sign up right now. And it could be a fake page, and they're grabbing credentials. It's going to be raining credentials if we're not careful. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I said this is why when it comes to this is why we all have to really, really pay attention to what we're doing over the course of the holidays. Look at, before you hit that submit button and cross the path of no return, make sure that everything looks legitimate on your end. That's all I was going to say.
Now, I wonder if there's going to be any sort of pivot. Like, if there's more targeted using this stuff, like, is there going to be a spike in trying to hit, like, Amazon Prime, since everyone's home and doing remote shipping, going to be hitting all of these, like, e-commerce sites?
Oh yes, that's definitely that's like asking Dorothy to wear a pair of blue shoes when she got red shoes, and we know Amazon's the yellow brick road.
Yep. But I mean, like, even the smaller ones, for the people that have become more socially conscious about Amazon and the reports of, like, how they affect their workers, or people that take exception to the amount of wealth that Jeff Bezos has, and does the smaller like Etsy's,
Right.
local, whatever, right? Like, I could see them being hit just as much too.
Yeah, everybody's involved in this one. We're in it together, so no one's exempt. A hacker's not going to go and say, "Oh, that's a cute little company. We're going to leave them alone and let's go for Amazon." No, if the companies out there, they have stuff exposed, they're taking that too. They really are.
Yeah.
This is what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the rise of healthcare and hospitals getting hit, so
Yes.
there's nothing off limits.
No, it's not. No, it's definitely not. So, again, that's I mean, from my perspective, I mean, like I said, Samsung, and everybody else out there, please be careful when you're dealing with any type of online transactions, because we love you. We don't want to see y'all in the newspaper, please.
And we definitely don't want, like, home systems getting hit with ransomware on this stuff too. I mean, if things are already strapped tight, I mean, we're on the verge of mass evictions across the country. Unemployment rates are high. Like, last thing you need to do is lose a computer to a ransomware that you don't even have the money to deal with, or have backups or anything like that.
Exactly, and that's the scary part. But this is the world we live in, and we just have to think smart. And for those of you out there, yeah, I did tell my age. Oh my God, I said newspaper. Shame on me. I am grounded. I am grounded right now.
Then we know. I think I've left some inferences about my age too. Talk about delivering the newspaper getting up at 4:00 in the morning to go pick it up, and
there's probably some young kids online gonna listen to this episode, but like, Daddy, why is he saying newspaper? What's that? I thought we always had blogs and articles.
For those individuals that may be in that situation, I suggest you look up a video game called Paperboy.
Ooh,
and give it a shot.
I might play that tomorrow.
Dude, Paperboy at the stand-up console in the arcade, so you had, like, the handlebars.
Yep.
That was legit difficult to do well at.
Yes, because it was on an angle.
Yeah.
Plus, I didn't like those dogs coming out in front of I still have an issue with that game. Them dogs kept running out and they kept killing me. I kept losing lives. I lost a lot of quarters behind them dogs. Sorry, I had a flashback for a second there. The neighbors were nice, but the dogs always boom, done. I know another quarter.
Yeah, and you're just like a young kid who's delivering newspapers, just riding down the middle of the street, throwing the papers into the house.
Exactly, and that was it. And the game was fun and enjoyable. So, yeah, Thanks a lot for the creator of that dog in that game, because it was a domino effect. Because I lost a lot of quarters, then I had to go to my parents, and it was draining them of quarters, and everybody was affected. Oh, we gotta love it. And that's and that kind of like goes into our, in a way, kind of goes into our segment. It was me trying to negotiate with my parents to get a awesome yes instead of a hard no.
Yeah, so I was just going to say we're going to do this a little out of order today because what we were discussing with BSD's attack section here actually led really well into the topic. So we're going to let him talk about his attack piece first and how that leads into our topic.
All right. So again, with like I told you earlier, I was on a pen test engagement, and as I'm going through the pen test engagement, I noticed that, of course, PowerShell wasn't an option red team engagement. It wasn't even pen test. Red team engagement, where of course PowerShell was not an option, and I was actually just trying out like actually using like C# and actually using these particular program languages, C# and Rust.
Now, real quick, if PowerShell isn't available, how do you use C# from an attack perspective?
You need to compile the code. You would need to compile the code, and again, that's something you could do on your local machine, or if you gain access to an endpoint, you can compile code on that machine itself.
All right. So effect, like just to back up and like do the ELI 5. What you're talking about here is transferring code over to the system and using a compiler on that system to then compile the code and then run it.
Correct.
All right.
Correct. Just to kind of bypass any type of detection in general. That's one option that you can use, which again, and going into our segment in general, and this is just a question that I have as I'm looking at these specific attacks and trying new ways to avoid detection. And on the flip side, because I do blue teaming as well, what do I look for? That's the question that I've run into a lot of times, especially like in modern days. A lot of times we look at, for us on a red teamer side of the house, I'm like, okay, how come nobody's really, what are they looking for when it comes to like PowerShell? How come nobody's keeping up to date with the latest version of PowerShell? Like what am I missing here? What am I really missing here when it comes to just in general? When I'm trying new attacks or whatnot, it's like, okay, it's great. Is everybody logging PowerShell? Is everybody up to the latest and greatest? What am I missing here when it comes to that? These are the type of questions that I actually have.
Yeah. So like with what you were saying there and how you had to do, what was it? What was it? C#.
C#.
C#. Mm-hmm. So like how common is that you actually encounter PowerShell not being available for you to do? Because that sounds like one of the 1%er attacks, like the 1% of places that are actually set up with detect, response, and visibility to be able to stop something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's like when we're on red team engagements, a lot of times, a lot of us look to just, we're starting to look more towards, more advanced attacks. We're not even trying to really look at PowerShell from that perspective. Now, if it's a regular penetration test, that's different because everybody, whoever's in that organization knows that we're there, and that's what we're there to do. But from a red team perspective, when you're trying not to be detected, that's when it gets a real tricky, and it gets to the point where you're just going to have to use something other than PowerShell because it's not an option. So, and as you said, it's a 1% thing. So if they're not a 1%, what are they doing? Are they just dealing with whatever they have? Like, how are they surviving as a business?
Could you repeat the question? I got lost there in that.
Yeah. So what say, so for example, if it's a company that's not in the 1%, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are they surviving? If they like the 1% that's actually looking, at like, logging PowerShell and up to the latest version, but then these other several companies that are outside of that 1%, what are they doing for security? What are they doing for survival out there?
That is an excellent question, and that is one of the things that keeps people like me as a consultant with a job.
Well, consult me because I'm confused. Talk to me.
Because, right, like, that's an excellent question that a lot of businesses are asking. Like, how are we surviving? Like, why hasn't something bad happened? And they feel that, like, ticker, right? I mean, that's one of the FUD things, the fear, uncertainty, doubts that I've seen sales use in the industry we work in is it's a ticking time bomb of when you're going to get breached as a way to drive sales for products and processes and things like that. But people are feeling it, right? They're recognizing it. So how are they? I don't know if we can answer that in a single podcast episode.
I don't think we can. No.
Yeah. No. But they are, right. I mean, they're still profitable. They're still doing it. They're still moving forward. But yeah, like what I was going to get to is since like C# and using these languages on a red team engagement, from my experiences, like that's the upper 1% of attacks and detection that most places aren't even at yet, when they maybe are just starting to log when PowerShell is being evoked less, let alone the actual commands that are being run over PowerShell or command line operation inspection and things like that. Right. So, like as a comparison, if you take on these engagements across everything you do when you're on the doing the attack side of stuff, like what would you say the ratio is between that upper 1% of novel things that you're doing to avoid detection versus how much of do you encounter where people still need to get some of the basics going?
I mean, it's. And in reality, it's a toss-up. It's a 50-50 chance, and this just based off of the caliber of customers that we're dealing with.
Okay.
And because we deal with both government and commercial, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like a 50-50 toss-up. Like now with the some places in the government are probably outside of that 1%, because again, you have legacy operating systems, you have legacy stuff in there.
Yeah, right? that you can't upgrade, right? Because their legacy systems are out of support.
And exactly, and these are the questions that swirl around in interesting mind. Like, okay, how? Like, for example, what do you say to a company that has Windows XP? And I'm painting a scenario here, everyone. Windows XP, Windows XP Service Pack 2 or 3 for that matter, right? And they're running not even running PowerShell. It's just DOS in general.
Yeah.
Okay. And you might, and we'll throw some Windows 7 machines in there, which is also out of end of life. And maybe PowerShell, 1, 2? I mean, again, what do you say to those to help them like survive? And I know, like you said, with the goal is to help them use what they have already in place.
Yep. And that's the smooth transition to our topic, with our topic being when you're dealing with legacy systems and stuff like this where you can't upgrade and you're running into conflicts with trying to implement detection, visibility, response stuff, like how do we help enable that securely? Because like with what you're saying in that scenario, so you say various versions of XP, Windows 7 and stuff like that.
Right.
The first question is, how business critical is it? And how, what is the reason why this hasn't been upgraded at this point? I know with my experience in the utility sector, and government too, like oftentimes there are dependencies, like in utility there could be the specific like HMIs, specific
Right.
field devices that only communicate. The most modern is that Windows XP Service Pack 3, right?
Mhm.
So if you completely got rid of that, you would lose access to, critical systems or critical devices for that organization.
That's true. That is true. So, I mean, it's really, I'm not going to say a rock and a hard place, but it's really for what you're saying to me, it's really no way around it, but you just try to ease the blow a little bit. It's kind of like you're riding a bike and you're about to fall off the bike because you're about to lose balance, but you want to position your body in a way where the falling the right way will lessen the blow. Is that kind of about sum it up?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good metaphor that we could use, or simile, since you use the word like in there a lot.
Yeah.
So, but how often, like in your experience, like how often have you encountered something like that where you've come into a business as either a threat hunter or a penetration tester, red teamer, where there are business case scenarios that have these old systems?
I'd say 60% of the time. It's been a lot, especially as of late. I noticed a pickup in these type of scenarios since the pandemic has arrived.
Mm-hmm. When people are like, "Hey, we got to take a real look at what it's going to take to." Oh crap! There's like this giant section of the network we've been neglecting the entire time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I'm starting to see an increase during this pandemic, and I'm afraid as the longer the pandemic goes on, the more and more we're going to see these types of scenarios occurring.
So, I mean, I'm gonna jump right into it because this is something I've been battling with too this week. Is in those situations, and you have to put forth like remediation or defense recommendations. How do we go from being back up a little bit? So I've been asking this question of myself because historically there's been a large population in the information security community that will just say no, or in this situation, it's legacy. Like, you have to upgrade it. You need to be secure. It has to be upgraded. There's no other options. But you're breaking a business critical thing. So how do we help them securely conduct business in this difficult situation where they're not able to upgrade legacy systems?
Okay, well, this what could help as well too. Like, again, taking what you already have, because I'm pretty sure they have some type of logging in place. They have something in place where they're actually monitoring this stuff. May not be the latest and greatest, but for example, let's take your friend and mine, compilers. Now, why not look for compilers that are running on a system? That could be a start. Depends on who's actually running that compiler too. So you can monitor specific users and what commands they run. That could be a start. If I was in that scenario, I'd be like, okay, I have BSDBandit on my network. I have Bob from marketing on my network, and Ron who's a sales engineer, right? Now, and
if I'm on the team, I'm going to be known as WAN-Tifa.
Okay, WAN-Tifa is on the network.
WAN-Tifa.
WAN-Tifa? Okay. WAN-Tifa is on the network, okay?
And trademarking that right now, I'm going to go on Twitter and make sure no one else takes it.
So, WAN-Tifa's on the network, okay? And I noticed, and I'm logging for any type of specific commands that's actually running on the system. I'm looking for what compilers and when they're being run on the system. So, for example, if WAN-Tifa is, and mind you, WAN-Tifa's in marketing, okay? If WAN-Tifa's running if she's compiling something using Visual Studio Code at 3 a.m. in the morning, ding, 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 get up, kick the door in, something's going on. Check her out. or him or her. We don't know who it is, but it's
They.
Antifa.
We can just say they.
They. Okay. So again, these are the type of things I would look for. The obvious, based off of the space that I've been presented with. I don't have the latest and greatest technology, but I can control what I look at using what I have already. So I'm going to assume that I have a sim. I'll just say I have a sim, right?
Mm-hmm. That is a reasonable assumption.
Yes. I'm going to configure that sim, like I said, to look for compile times on the network. What time is, if anything, gets compiled on the network, say 3 a.m. or whatnot. That's an alarm for me. What are the users doing? What are they logging into at specific times? Again, if Bob from marketing is logging into a domain admin account, ding, 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 kick the door in, something's going on. Something's wrong. I don't care what time Bob logs in. He's in marketing. He doesn't need a domain admin account. Ding, 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 kick that door in. Something's wrong. These are the things.
Yeah, I'm curious about something. Like you just brought up compilers, which takes us back into the attack section that you're having to do a compiler. So let's think about it like a standard business where you have Windows endpoint systems.
Uh-huh.
Like do they come stock with a compiler?
No, not Windows.
Oh, not Windows. Okay. Mm-mm. And then let's say that you're in your instance, the C#. How do you get a compiler onto the system?
You compile it with Visual Studio Code.
Okay.
Visual Studio Code, and again, Visual Studio Code is a legitimate Microsoft product that you can download and actually install on the Microsoft or on the Windows machine in general, and you can compile your code from there. So you got
access to at least a single user's endpoint, and then you downloaded Visual Studio.
Mm-hmm.
And then you copied over your code.
Yep.
And compiled your code.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's one way of doing it. And then, of course, from there, depending on the specific code, because there's different, I'm just going to say seatbelt or sharp up. These are actual PowerShell tool. They were originally written in PowerShell, but they've been converted over to C#. And these are the tools that I would actually recompile and use on an engagement in general. But I would need to, and like I said, I don't have to recompile it on that endpoint, but that's just another option that I would take. And this is something that if I'm putting on my blue hat now, if I'm watching for something, I'm going to look at if Visual Studio Code is running and what time is it running and who's actually running that particular program. These are the things that I would actually look for.
And we're going to rehash all this stuff later when we actually get to the official detection section, and it's not just going to be part of the conversation. We're still getting BSD into the flow of putting information in the individual segments.
Yes. Yes. Ding, 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 ding. You got me. So yes.
Yeah, so I was just thinking too, like to kind of keep it going because we still got some more time here. So what would you say, like, since we're still dealing with, this novel attack of,
yes,
I still call it novel because, it most places still, it's not on the radar to be watching this stuff, right? They've got a lot of other things to get in place. What would you say are like the predominant languages? Like I know from watching people in the community that Go is becoming a common thing for people to start picking up because you can both compile and script from within the same language.
Yes.
What other ones would you say are like in the in the community? Rust. You mean like where I can use triangles and squares and build castles and giant houses?
Sure can. Yes, you can. And you can also use the Windows API with Rust. Uh-oh.
Wait, so I was referencing the video game, not the language.
No, the Rust programming language. Ha! Ha ha ha! But you can build triangles and everything with Rust. You can.
We gotta get you up on Rust, the video game.
Yeah, you do. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll show some pictures after we get done recording.
Yeah, show me some stick figures and we'll do this. But yeah, definitely the Rust program language is another hot button as well too. You can, like I said, it has some awesome documentation as far as like referencing the Windows API, and it's a system level programming language which you can compile from pretty much anywhere and actually run your executable on Windows. So for me personally, I write Rust code on my Ubuntu Linux box, and I compile it into an executable that will run on any Windows system using WinAPI calls.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I think we can make that the official transition to the detection phase then. So actually, no, let's back up because we never really got to talking about how do we enable, we got sidetracked. How do we say yes? Like, how do we give that sexy yes when something's legacy?
Well, I think we give that sexy yes and say, hey, I think it's more from an understanding perspective to just say, hey, okay, we understand, okay, this is the scenario that you've given us. Here's what you have. So here's what you can use to secure your environment but then maybe give maybe advice. Well, not even advice, just maybe more so recommendations towards like the next steps, or ask the question as opposed to just saying give them recommendations. Ask the questions, like have meetings with the organization, just saying, hey, I realize you guys are working with this right now, and you have the legacy systems, and you don't want to break the legacy systems, and we have these security controls that are already in place. What are your next steps from here? Are you guys planning an upgrade? Are you looking to move to a different system altogether? Are you looking to kill off the project? What are you looking to accomplish within, like, say, the next year or so? And that kind of gives them that, that confidence to kind of tell you what they're doing. And that's kind of like the sexy yes in my book, in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Because effectively, like we've mentioned before, whatever we do, whatever our job role is in this information security, cybersecurity industry is, at the end of the day, we're just consultants because we don't carry the business risk. And everything we do is about enabling business leaders to make decisions, right? They have to balance profitability with security, sometimes with board members, depending on what kind of organization they are, sometimes with governmental admins. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into that. And for me, this was just a big thing because, one, I got to play it out this week myself with, instead of just saying no, like, how do we say yes, but specific yeses. So it's not like, hey, you can keep your legacy system and still do this modern detection stuff. You'd be like, hey, look, because of these conditions, this thing isn't doable, but then offer solutions instead. So instead of just holding that hard line no, it's like, well, this isn't going to work, but if we do, if we downgrade a system, if we do some custom work, or we use a different tool that's more appropriate for that legacy environment, to get the same information, the same coverage. Yeah, it's going to be, a little patchwork, but that's the nature of the business. So here's your options. Which way do you want to go?
Exactly. I totally agree. We're problem solvers. We get paid to help solve problems.
Exactly. Like another like specific example is I've heard a number of people rail on, why are you sending this stuff in clear text? Why are you sending this stuff in clear text? In the utility, like, there's a lot of stuff that's sent in clear text because that's how the protocol is, right? And they're like enabling encryption on it, and some of the devices just can't support it. So how do you secure that data feed that has to be in clear text? It's a simpler protocol while still securing the information in transit. One way a thing you could do in a situation like that is just send it over a tunnel.
Yeah.
Right? So you're still enabling the business to do its job in a secure fashion.
Yeah. It's all about the Band-Aids, baby.
Yeah, yes, that's what it is. Until something happens to where they get that giant blank check to redo everything from the ground up, which does occasionally happen. Like probably Sam's Club is getting a very big check, writing a very big check right now to make some changes.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so now the detection phase. So again, remind us, since we got caught up in conversation, what was the attack thing that we were going to talk about?
Well, we were gonna talk about like just attacking it from a perspective, just doing like newer attacks and using compilers as well on endpoints. That was the
Yes, and the compilers is where we got on the official detection. So the official detection for this is checking for the downloading of compilers on systems that don't normally have compilers, or baselining compiler usage for systems like development systems that have it. And then, like you mentioned earlier, if Bob from accounting is trying to compile something at 2:30 in the morning,
ding 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 ding, kick the door in.
to kick the door in. Yep. So there you go. Do you have any inspirational words for us as we close it out? Just a few minutes shorter from our normally long-winded episodes.
What? I definitely I definitely do. I just want to say to everyone that you guys and girls are super awesome, and I really appreciate each and everyone in the community. I don't care if you're blue, you're red. Together we make purple. So just know that.
And purple is the color of royalty. Don't forget that.
That what? Who you telling? There's a lot of kings and queens out there. Yes. I'm going to put on my purple robe tomorrow. Well, tonight, actually. It is night. But I just want y'all to know that I love you all from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for checking us out on Detections. We love y'all. That's what I got.
That's fantastic. We do. If you haven't encountered us, haven't talked to us directly, even though you may only hear it, but we, all three of us, definitely walk what we say when we say we love you all. Take care of yourself. And remember, no matter how crazy things get, or if a fly lands on your hair, go forth and find badness.
Yes.